This is the post-Dorian drone survey of Bogue Banks. Bogue Banks is approximately a 25-mile long island, and this survey was conducted going west to east. We're starting in an area known as the Point. This area of the Shrawn is influenced by the inlet of Bogue Inlet, and what you see here is a bunch of ridge and swale topography, freshwater ponds. Dorian, as you see, did not do a lot of damage here to Bogue Banks. What you will see in this video is damage done to the beaches from Florence in the year prior. Okay, this is a typical before and after of Hurricane Florence last year. Up top, before Florence, large frontal dune and the baby dunes intact. After Florence, Florence took away most of the baby dunes along the Bogue Banks. We're continuing here in Emerald Isle. What you see here is the sand fencing was placed after Hurricane Florence, so obviously Dorian did not damage it. And if you look, you can see a dune escarpment along the incipient dune field, and then the windblown sand has basically pushed itself up on the escarpment since Hurricane Florence last year. This is also a nice example of the larger primary dunes along most of Bogue Banks. This area will be nourished in the winter of 2019 and 2020. Again, here a nice example of a large primary frontal dune escarpment. Again, the sand fences were placed after Florence, and again, Dorian did not do much. We're still in Emerald Isle, approaching Bogue Inlet Pier in the background, and again here just looking at some very prominent frontal dunes and the incipient dune field in front of it. In some places the incipient dune field has been escarped by Florence, and in other places it's still there. Eastern Emerald Isle, and we're approaching the Phase 1 beach nourishment project that was done in the wake of Florence. The sand was pumped up to the beach and then contoured into this dune feature you see here. Some of the plants were planted back in April, others were planted in August. With that, here is the basic design of the nourishment project. The dune feature started at the old vegetation line where the words dune toe is. Then we went on a 5-to-1 slope to an elevation of about 12 feet above sea level, and extended that back into the native beach. Obviously this is a plan view and a real view of the project. Continuing here in Eastern Emerald Isle, the water tower you see in the background is approximately 8th Street. And again, this is the nourishment project. And again, you can see the dune plants, which were sea oats. And the property owners have, in some places, installed a sand fencing on top of the dune crest. We're now in the town of Indian Beach, just left Emerald Isle, proceeding east. And here you will see that all the sUAS were generally planted at the same time, and the nourishment project is looking great. Hurricane Dorian did not do any damage to the dunes or the seagrasses. We're now approaching the end of one of the reaches of the nourishment project, and it's the beginning of Salter Path. And again, you will see the dune feature stops, and you will be able to see the remnant escarpments from Hurricane Florence. This reach will be nourished again in winter 2019, 2020. And this is the final end of the nourishment project going into Knoll shores. We're now in Knoll shores. Again, here you can see a beautiful frontal dune, a maritime forest, the landward of that, and here you really don't see an incipient dune. In most places, and in other places it was eroded. Again, in Florence, we're now approaching. Fast forwarding, we're now approaching the location of the old iron steamer fishing pier, and you will see that the back end of the seawall was washed out in Florence. And we're back at the location of the old iron steamer pier. Again, progressing east. This area will be nourished all upon Knoll shores, the western Atlantic beach, that little region of Salter Path, and western Emerald Isle. Again, will be part of a larger nourishment project that will be taking place in winter 2019 and 2020. Upon Knoll shores still, progressing east, and here you can see how the development is actually seaward of the other development. So again, it looks like this area is more of an erosion, a hotspot area, but part of it was because the development was closer to the sea. Again, moving forward upon Knoll shores, a great example of frontal dunes, maritime forests, and in some areas the incipient or a dune field. And we are approaching the town of Atlantic Beach. The pier is in the background is generally the town line or boundary between Knoll shores and Atlantic Beach, and the motel there is the DoubleTree. And here you can see some a dune escarping again by Hurricane Florence. We're now in Atlantic Beach proper, heading now from the pier at the DoubleTree towards the circle. much a common theme here. Again, the incipient dune field, you see the old escarpments eroded from Florence, and the wind-blown sand in the past year pushed up against the escarpments. And we're progressing through Atlantic Beach. It's still heading east, and up above you will start seeing the area known as the Circle in Atlantic Beach. We're now past the Circle and approaching the Oceana fishing pier. And the kind of important thing here in this video is I noticed that the dunes here are in a really good shape. You won't see any escarpments or any kind of a remnant escarpments. And this area of the beach is nourished by the Army Corps of Engineers associated with the Moorhead Harbor. They receive sand here about every third year, and again, this stretch is in really good shape. Obviously, Florence did not impact it much, and of course, Dorian did not either. We just transitioned into Fort Macon, the state park. That's the last 1.4 miles of Bogue banks, and this is the popular bathhouse area, one of the state's most visited parks. And now we're approaching the very end of Bogue banks. The east end, Beaufort Inlet separates Bogue banks from Shackleford banks, which you can see there in the upper right, and that's our voyage across the island. And I thank you very much for watching.